Okay, next up, experts discuss how the most innovative consumer businesses are using digital payments as a tool to increase conversion, drive growth and deliver a better customer experience. Now, online payment transactions can be incredibly complex and time wasteful for both retailer and consumer, but that part of the checkout process can also bring massive opportunities. The fintech ecosystem has at the moment the resources and the technology to create platforms able to improve customer experience, drive loyalty and collect valuable data on customers, not to mention save the retailer and customer precious time and money. Please welcome to the stage Alessandro Bocca, CEO of Axerve, Liam Price, Head of E-Commerce at Fatface, and William Trump, Head of the Behavioural Insights Group at Iptic Swiss Re. Welcome to the stage. Will, what role does trust play in the payment process, and how can retailers strengthen trust with their customers?
Well, trust really is a core part of the online purchase process. I mean, if you stop and think about buying anything, that involves trust actually. Even a physical product in a store, you've got to trust that it's going to do what it says it does, and all the more so online. You know, you're parting with money in exchange for a promise to receive something at some point. So there's a huge trust gap there. Psychologists like to talk about trust almost being like a leap that you have to make. And we need to be able to help people make that leap.
And your thoughts, both of you, on the trust question, Alessandro?
You know, I think that in general, looking at the payment part, of the checkout, and if we look at the marketplace and the best, payment platform, in the world, not only selling goods but even services, we see that they set, very high expectation, and in some way we also see that technology and the ability of, the industry, the payment industry, to serve this need is now increased. So, for example, the fact of keeping the customer on your website without caring about card details and so on, or security, it's something like, it's a commodity. So now merchants are looking for something else. For example, deliver the kind of experience that Apple or Google gives with digital PAN, so it means that the customer doesn't need to update the card or the card doesn't expire anymore. So these are some services that we can deliver on a shelf, or the industry can. Another thing is related to the full experience of the customer. For example, if you think about the fraud is a double damage for the merchant. Once, in terms of they need to give the money back to the real cardholder, so that's a problem. How do you avoid it? You increase the number of steps they have to do in order to complete a payment, so that's a problem. How do you solve them? That's a matter of technology and how the technology can help the merchant on that. The second damage is when the real cardholder see the fraud, they see the name of the website, so they doesn't care that somebody else did it. They see the merchant, so it's a double damage because of that. I think that the way the industry needs to help the merchant is providing these kind of services that help security and set the bar to a different level for the user experience.
Yeah, I think just on the trust point, it's a really interesting one for us. So we've tried and tested over and over again different trust messages during the checkout with that, and any other retailers in the audience will be able to sympathise with that e-commerce/brand balance in terms of messaging during the checkout. To answer the question around trading levers, payment now is aligned within our trading calendar, which this time last year would not have been there. So we have active conversations around what is the customer mindset, what payment type should we be pushing in our comms. So really basic things, but also going further up the funnel. So traditionally, payment is only featured at the last point in checkout.
What is the role of payments in driving those conversions?
I'll just repeat what I said earlier, but it is a core and critical part of the purchase is the payment. And dare I say, payment is almost only a downside area. By the time you get to the payment stage, someone has shown so much interest and motivation to purchase that we could only harm our process by putting them off buying and doing that purchase process. So
Alessandro, what are, the checkout process can bring massive opportunities to retailers, clearly. What are those opportunities regarding conversion and competition?
So I think that in some way, we talk about omni-channel. So we know that the customer is not the customer that goes in the web shop, the shop, bring the good and go to the countertop. But the experience is wider. So I think that, again, the payment part needs to follow this experience during the different touch points. Again, we see an improvement in terms of the capability of the ecosystem to deliver these kind of services. And so, for example, again, maybe if we talk about buy now, pay later, that is now an hype, we see different solution, and maybe being able to offer the right buy now, pay later solution for a market, for a specific industry or something like that is crucial. So again, this is the way we can drive the better conversion, even talking about the same payment method.
Liam, what opportunities has it created for you?
Yeah,
I suppose it'd be useful to know from you as you're earlier in this journey, in terms of the stage that you're at, the biggest surprises for you.
So we're still sort of reaping the rewards of having a better payment offering in checkout, so we're still seeing sort of like for like benefits of that. I think the bit that's been most surprising is that consumer behavior shift. So we're starting to be able to reconcile back certain payment types towards certain consumer behavior, and how that drives long-term value. And so that's really interesting, and that's new data that the brand has never had before. So with certain payment types, we know have a higher average order value, but then we might get more returns back. But actually looking at a longer picture, we're now seeing repeat purchase rates increase from certain channels. Which is brilliant to know, but it's nice to share with the board. But then it's how you actually use that. So we're going through a process at the minute of integrating that payment information and throughout our personalization journey on site. So soon we'll be able to start personalizing different points of the customer journey based on payment types previously used, trying to get customers from certain payment types into other payment types, or trying to change behavior based on payment types. And that's quite exciting for us.
But how have consumer needs and our needs and expectations changed and been accelerated by the conditions of the past 18 months, the pandemic?
I think expectations have gone up of digital processes. So in the old days, you probably could get away with something pretty shoddy online. Now it has to be perfectly slick and seamless because that bar has been raised by the best players.
Alessandro?
Yeah, again, we've seen that the merchant that has invested heavily before the pandemic, but they were able to or increase their sales or mitigate the effect in their retail business. So that's what I want to say. And again, or enable new use cases, like we've seen a lot of big retailers open with pay-by-link solutions, so they reduce the square meter of the shop, adding new product and services, for example, or I don't know, for example, setting up new business model, like a subscription model, like the Netflix one, but I don't know, used on sunglasses, so you can use. You can change sunglasses just paying a subscription mode. So I see that again. The technology should be an enabler, and the payment provider should follow this flow and enabling the different use cases for the merchant with the right solution.
We talk a lot about flexibility and intuition when it comes to payments. What does a flexible and intuitive payment system look like?
Yeah, I mean, one that is easy to deal with. I would say, on the one hand, we should put a lot of energy into making the process seamless and slick and easy, because actually the number one rule of behavior change is, if you want someone to do something, make it easy. But actually, we should make it psychologically easy as well.
Alessandro, how can technology drive flexibility?
Yeah, you mentioned, the experience, and you've gone through the different steps. Again, merchants are facing, different challenges during the checkout process, and some of the information that helps the merchant to convert better comes maybe before, during the checkout process. For example, the technology allows us to, for example, check for a transaction from a risky point of view since the very beginning.
Alessandro, for those who don't know how a payment orchestration system works, can you sum it up?
Since 2010, I would say, with the Payment System Directive and a different regulation, the market opened up. It has been created a lot of excellence and specialization in different segments. So from payment providers to payment methods, so digital wallet, buy now, pay later solution, and not only, but I would add a fraud prevention tool and so on. So when a guy like Tim needs to take a decision about which is the payment platform he has to put on the website, which are the payment method he needs to use. I think at the end of the day, he is betting on a horse, on the derby. He's saying he does research, so whatever, but at the end of the day, you choose the one that you trust the most, with the best references, that maybe gives you the confidence to, for example, convert more or save fees. But I think at the end of the day, you're still betting on one horse in the derby. Payment orchestration allows you to bet on all the horses in the derby. So in some way, you can aggregate the number of providers in just one, and then maybe you said that we do A/B testing, no? That's fine, you do A/B testing on creativity, messages, but if you can do A/B testing on the payment platform and see, let's split the flow and see which one is converting the most, then I have the evidence. So I think we need to go to this further step and in some way get the benefits of this ecosystem and having somebody that is both aggregating in terms of providers available, and not only, but aggregating in terms of reconciliation, because the other challenge is once you get the money, if you have tons on many providers, how you can do that, how you can reconcile. This system in some way allows you to have just one payout, one reconciliation, so in some way you can add or change more easily.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.